Thanks for having me tonight. It's really great to be here. As I got introduced, my name's Jacqui. I work for Beef and Lamb New Zealand Genetics in the Dunedin office. My take on doing this presentation is a wee bit different, so I'm going to start a wee bit chronologically. As you can see from the beef and lamb part of my role, I work in agriculture. I didn't want to work in agriculture. I had no intention at all in doing this. But that's why my background's a bit relevant. I grew up in a little place in the middle of nowhere, about an hour and a half south of here. It's all agriculture. Wasn't interested really, other than thinking that the animals are pretty cute. That's about it. Went to a small agricultural primary school, small agricultural high school. Still didn't want to do agriculture. But then I decided that I did want to go to uni. What I would say to everyone, you're already partway through, but do something you enjoy. Don't do something that someone told you to do or something you think you're going to get great money from. All the money in the world won't make you happy if you hate what you're doing. So I went to uni and did a really weird combination of things. I did a Bachelor of Science in Zoology and a Bachelor of Arts with honours in History. And I started out with a psychology major as well. I dropped that one, didn't like the way they examined it. Too many multi-choice questions. So I went through 5 years of uni, doing my undergrad, and with everyone telling me that I wouldn't get a job, and that was a really weird combination, and why would I possibly have done that? You can see later on I went back to uni. I got bored, it happens. After I graduated, I started just doing some random stuff. Still didn't know what I wanted to do. Went and was a tour guide for a while out on the peninsula. That was actually really cool. One of my favorite jobs. Just doesn't pay very much, so I wouldn't recommend it as a career choice. After that, I tried my hand at a museum job, bringing the history degree in. Also not for me. If you want to work in a museum, I recommend you be very introverted and quiet. I got told they could hear me through the elevator shaft, so not for me. I left there and I did some sales just to make some money so I could get out of the country, actually. So I worked for telecom and just saved and saved and saved and went to Europe because I wanted to get out of Dunedin. I was getting a bit sick of it. As you've heard throughout these, we all get a bit sick of it sometimes. So I did my OE around Europe with a friend, did a top deck tour. It was absolutely amazing. Travel, if you all can, just do it before you get a job, if at all possible. And after doing that, I decided I would also move countries. So I went straight from Europe to Western Australia, where I went back to uni. Still not knowing what I wanted to do. At this stage, I thought I wanted to be a forensic scientist. So I went to the University of Western Australia and started a master's in forensic science. Did some sales at the same time. The sales thing that I keep going on about is relevant, don't worry. Didn't last in Australia very long, lasted about a year, didn't finish the master's, that's fine. Realised it wasn't for me, and I came back to good old Dunedin to be with my family. When I got back here, again, no idea what I wanted to do. I'd been here for a couple of weeks applying for jobs, and I saw one at AgResearch, which is out in Mosgiel, Invermain, and it said, you need a science degree and you need customer service skills. Here's where sales comes in. I agree with Adam in the sales. So I applied for this job and I got my first job in science. This was the customer service job at Genomes. Genomes is a commercial DNA testing lab for the agriculture industry. So it was my first science job and my first foray back into agriculture. I looked after all the customers. I ended up doing DNA parentage analysis, ended up doing a wee bit of genotyping, but mostly they kept me in an office with a computer doing all the IT type stuff. At this point, realized what a data nerd I was and that I really enjoyed playing with massive data sets and analyzing the data and finding trends and problem solving. And so I stayed there for 4 years, but while I was there, I got bored. So I did another master's. And I did full-time study and full-time work. So I worked 40 hours a week and I did a master's in 18 months at the same time. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this. I didn't have very much of a life for that 18 months. However, I did have a fantastic company who paid for me to do my master's. They let me take half a day every week where I came in and did classes. And by take half a day, I mean I worked an extra hour every morning to get that half day. So I worked from 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. every day. I studied on a Friday morning, and every night and every weekend I studied. It was a bit crazy, but if you can find a job willing to let you do this, do it. It's $10,000, I didn't have to go on my student loan. The other thing I would say, and the reason I ended up doing this, was if you're in a role and you're getting a bit bored and there's not enough for you to do and you want something more to sink your teeth into, go and ask. I walked into my boss at this job and I said, I'm bored. I'm thinking of leaving and going back to uni to finish my forensics masters. The only place I can do that is Auckland. And he said, yep, we'll support you, but if you find a master's here in Dunedin, we'll pay for it as long as you'll stay in this job. So just make sure you ask and make sure you show your initiative. They love it. Not used to it. We're the generation, I'm not going to say we because you're all younger than me, my generation and yours are much more likely to go and promote ourselves and to say, hey, I'm bored, give me something to do. The older generations didn't do that. And so when I walked in and said that to my boss, he was just so excited. It was ridiculous. After that, I stayed at AgResearch for a wee bit longer. And then this job came up at Beef and Lamb New Zealand Genetics. And I actually thought I did not have a shit show. I looked at the job and I thought, I don't have half these skills. I can't do this. But my colleagues and my friends and family said, you should apply. Sounds like you. Even if you can only do part of it, give it a try. So I did. And I got it, surprisingly to me. I would say if you go into an interview and you're feeling like you don't have half the skills or you don't know what you're doing, talk yourself up. Go in there, say you've got all these amazing things, be confident in your abilities. If they ask you what you might need to improve on, be honest. I went in there and said, I don't know how to do coding because it's part of my role. And they said, that's fine, I'll teach you. It's, it can be that simple. So just make sure you put yourself out there. So in my job at the moment, I work in the genetics division, but within a much bigger company called Beef and Lamb. We're spread right through the country, from Auckland all the way down to Gore. And my role is quite varied. A lot of the people in my genetics team work in either beef or sheep. I work across everything. Variability is something I really enjoy. So we have multiple databases, and I am one of the ones in charge of making sure those are working and supported and testing them. And my most favorite thing is finding problems with them. I try to break them and then give them back to the developers to fix. So our databases hold millions of records of phenotypic and genotypic information. Some of it is commercial from breeders, and some of it is all research data from our particular research projects that we are undertaking constantly. I load the data, I extract the data, I analyze the data. Part of extracting and loading and analyzing it was learning how to code to pull that data out. That was a huge learning curve. Some of the courses on LinkedIn, a lot of people have talked about LinkedIn. Some of the courses on there are really good, and that is where I learned quite a lot of that coding, other than from my manager, who is some kind of IT genius. I do genotyping management, so that comes from my background out of AgResearch, and stakeholder relationship management coming from the sales and the customer service. Farmers and breeders are an interesting group of people to talk to. You don't want to walk in there in your high heels and your suit and talk down to them. They don't give a shit. They just want you to be frank. They want you to be honest, and they kind of want you to have some banter with them. So you've got to have some of that extroversion coming through so you can build those relationships with them. Another couple of things I do is train new staff. Got 2 new staff that have just come in to take the backlog of my work so I can move into new things. And animal ethics, all about using animals in our research. And that's actually huge. They're getting very particular with the welfare standards about animal ethics. So as I said, I work in the genetics division of Beef and Lamb New Zealand. Beef and Lamb New Zealand, our main slogan is by farmers for farmers. So we are a levy-funded organisation, which means at the processor where the sheep, beef and dairy cattle are killed, we take a levy off each of one of those processed animals. Comes to us for our 3 main pillars, which you'll see there. So supporting farming excellence, championing the sector, and increasing market returns. So we essentially sit behind the farm gate, helping farmers with everything they do on the farm before their animals go to slaughter. There is a huge range of teams within our company. Our main office is actually in Wellington. And as I said, we have staff all the way from Gore to Auckland. This is all the teams we've got. The genetics team that I'm in is part of Farming Excellence. And to be in the Farming Excellence team, you are looking at needing a science degree. But there's a huge, huge other range. So you see there's operations, market development. So that's all about marketing our exports to the world. Engagement and comms, getting all our messages out there. It's a lot of science communication, huge amount of that. And that is massive in all science industries now. Policy, you probably have heard about all the delightful things happening with freshwater and environment in the policy space. The poor farmers don't know what hit them, but we have some amazing people who go in and read all that policy and turn it into something that the farmers can understand. If you want a job at Beef and Lamb, recruitment, everything's advertised. So Seek, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, pretty sure there's a Twitter account as well. The main things that they would like you to have if you want to work in this industry is a passion for the sheep and beef industry. We are Beef and Lamb. If you don't like beef and lamb, could be a problem. In saying that, there's some vegans and vegetarians that work for us. So you don't have to eat it. You just have to realise that it is New Zealand's biggest industry and it's what holds our economy up. They want individuals that are passionate, intelligent, dedicated, and fun. We have some real fun in our company. Each year, they get us all together in Wellington and pretty much have a big party. And individual roles are obviously going to have different recruitment specifications. For my role, for example, I needed to have a science degree. I needed to have experience in the genetics area for animals. So coming from AgResearch was really great for that. In terms of, I think that's actually the last, oh no. So this is just if you wanted to find the Beef and Lamb working for us. It's the website, all the jobs are put up there and just a lot more about the company as well. But the main things that I would say overall, don't pigeonhole yourself. If you don't know what you're going to do, just try some stuff. It doesn't matter if it fails, just keep on trying. Show your initiative and show your dedication to the people you work for and ask for things you want. If you want some development training, if you want to do some courses, if you want to do a master's while you work for them, ask them. The worst they can say is no. But yeah, that's probably about me.